What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. I am Nicole of SewGnar Sewing Patterns, and in today's video we have a brand new pattern. What did she say? This Ceres Slim Wallet is finally here and ready for human consumption. I mean, don't eat it, obviously, but this is the little sister to my previously released Juno clutch wallet. So I took all of my favorite design details from this guy and then I pared it down to make a smaller palm-sized, just more everyday wallet. Not everybody needs 16 card slots like the Juno has. So this little Betty has 8 card slots, one zipper pouch back here that is gusseted. So it has a nice deep depth, can hold a lot of coins, or in my case, one earring, because I always lose the other one. It closes with one snap. You can use a double cap rivet, you can use spring snaps like I did in this one, or you can even use just like a standard prong back magnetic snap. And so it opens up and it has the 8 card slots, which you have 3 different top design detail. You could do scoop like I did here. So this fun little U shape in the center. You do V or you can do straight across. It's a really great color blocking pattern because all of these pieces here can all be different colors, or you can go monochromatic and get one that looks similar to mine. But I think my favorite detail of this wallet is this open wide cash slot. So it opens super wide so that way you can fit a lot of stuff and you can see everything that you have in there. And there is no danger of anything falling out because if you add the optional wristlet strap, it attaches right here. And so the cash slot is up here. So gravity will hold all your bills in place. So as you can see, it's a nice small size wallet, stays really nice and slim even when it's at full capacity. And I mean, you just can't really beat it for an everyday wallet. It has more than enough room, more than enough card slots, easy to make, great for busting out all your scraps. I mean, there really is nothing better, right? So they are great for beginner or advanced seamsters alike. There's something for everybody in this pattern. It's also fantastic for edge coating because there's only 4 main areas and it's a nice rectangular shape. It's perfect for practicing your edge coating. As you can see, I have been on a roll with these bad boys. I introduced them at my last vending event and I sold 3 out of 5, and I sell these guys for 63. So they're perfect for event people. If you're out in the world and you're vending, this is a fantastic pattern for that as well. You'll find all the pertinent links below. So I have just the PDF, and then I also have a PDF SVG bundle. So make sure if you want the bundle that's what you're purchasing. And then I have acrylic templates coming out sometime in hopefully the nearest future. Keep an eye out for those. As always, if you're enjoying the video or the pattern, let me know in the comments. Throw me a thumbs up, follow, subscribe, share, you know, all the good fun stuff that I always ask y'all to do. All right, let's get to making. Let's get this party started, shall we? I have my main panel. I have one lining, one exterior. They are the same exact piece. So I have 2 of those. I have card panel A and card panel B. And you'll notice that I cut out my scoops because that's what I'm doing on my card slots on the top and bottom of card panel B. I have my zipper gusset, and you'll notice that I cut it for the right-handed orientation. If you're cutting it for left-handed orientation, this point will be on this side whenever you cut it, but those cutting instructions are in the pattern. I have my zipper lining, my zipper tape with the pull already attached. I'm using number 3. I'm using a spring snap on my flap, so I have all of those pieces cut out and ready to go. Double stick tape and glue are going to be your friend in this pattern. And then I want to bring our attention over here. So the card panel back on the pattern piece, I say that there's an option to wait to cut this out of your textile until we get our card panel created. And I say that because then you can use the actual overall size of the created card panel to cut this back piece out. So if you want to wait, which I'm going to do, then we will just cut this one later once we get to that point. Now, also in the pattern, I include this paper template. We will be using this to construct the actual card panel, so make sure you have this cut out and ready to go as well. So a note about the zipper pocket lining bottom, you'll notice that the interfacing piece is not the same size, and that's intentional so that we can create nice, stiff, folded edges by using the edge of the interfacing. But you need to take note, if you are doing the right-handed orientation, you need to put your interfacing, in my case I'm using Decabo Light, with the gap on the left and the top. And if you are doing right-handed orientation, your gap is going to be on the top and the right side here. Next up, I want to talk about the crutch. I cut mine out of Craft Tex, and you'll see here that I already went ahead and transferred all of my card slot lines here. I do recommend using Craft Tex or something equally stiff but thin, just so that you have the nice structure, but not a whole lot of heft from whatever you're using to do the crutch. Now, it's not impossible to do this with a thinner piece of material, but having something that holds its own is going to be really helpful later on in the process, which you'll see once we get into the construction. But yeah, so my crutch is prepped and ready to go as well. And then lastly, if you don't have a cutting machine, I want to show you how I cut my zipper box out just by hand. So what I've done is I cut out on the pattern piece here, I went in here and I cut out my actual zipper box. And you want to be sure that you are cutting out this gusset line area here as well. And so what I did is I traced it onto the back of one of my main panels, just like so. And then I just use a straight edge, scissors, rotary blade, X-Acto knife. It's totally up to you what you want to use, but you do not need any fancy equipment to cut this out. So I'm just going to trace my lines that I marked. And I'm just going to do the straight lines here. I'm not going to use my rotary blade to get my short edges. I'm just going to do all of my long edges. And then I get a pair of sharp scissors and I come in and I will snip out the rest of this box. So now you can see this is now completed, and if you want to, you can go in and add a thin coat of Mod Podge around this raw edge so that when the zipper is opening and closing, it doesn't agitate the cork and cause little pills to come up. So I'm going to do that, and I'm also going to add my logo right here. Okay, my zipper box is now prepped. I have my logo on there. I went ahead and added my thin layer of Mod Podge. And now to finish my prep for my exterior panel, we need to peek at the pattern piece again, and you'll notice that I have interior snap and exterior snap. So exterior snap goes on the exterior, so I marked it on the wrong side. It doesn't matter, it's the same either way. So I marked it down here, and I'm just going to punch this hole and add my snap. Now you want to make sure that the outside of your snap is on the outside of the wallet. And if you're using a magnetic snap, you're going to install it the same way. If you're using a double cap rivet, same way. You just want to install it through the exterior. And then the interior snap is just going to go on the interior panel, and I just marked it. We're not going to attach it quite yet. If you're using a regular magnetic snap, you can attach it now, but if you're using the double cap rivet or the spring snap, we will attach it once the wallet is fully complete. But for now, I just marked it right there. So our two panels are now prepped and ready to go, and we will move on to make the card slots. So go ahead and gather all of that stuff. All right, so to get started, I have 3 of my card slots, 1 of my card panel A, and I need to attach my crutch to my paper template here. And so I'm going to tape this right inside of this box as it's laid out. Now you don't need to put a whole bunch. You just want enough to hold the crutch to this piece of paper, because we're going to immediately start stitching on it and it will attach. You just want to be mindful, especially if you're using glue. You don't want to use a ton of it. Okay, so just like that. Now the first thing that we're going to do is, starting at this top line up here, I'm going to take my card slot A. I'm going to lay it on that first line. Then I'm simply just going to go to my machine and stitch just along this bottom edge here using 1/8 seam allowance. Now what you should notice is that your edges meet up with the edge of your paper template as well as your top edge, and your bottom edges here should be the same width of your crutch. I'm using Tex 80 thread from Wizardry, size 18 needle and a size 4.5 stitch length. And then just like I said before, I'm just going to ensure that all of my edges are lined up and that my bottom edge is in line with that first crutch line, and then stitch using 1/8 seam allowance across the bottom edge. All right, this is what you should be looking like now, and we're just going to work our way down the crutch and add a card slot each time. So I'm going to take the first card slot, put it on this second line here, lining up my edges using the paper template as my guideline, and I'm going to stitch just along the bottom. Then I'm going to add another card slot, stitch, and then another card slot and stitch. Then I'm going to flip my entire panel and repeat all of those steps with my remaining card panel A, card slot, card slot, card slot. All right, I have my completed card panel. And if it's not exactly perfect, that's okay. That's why I give you the paper template so that you can keep a better track on everything. Before the paper template, this was very wily. It was so easy to get off track. So paper template definitely helps, but I did formulate the card slots to be wide enough that we can trim down if we need to. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over these slight edges showing. So the last thing that we need to do is take card panel B. And again, if you haven't already, make sure that your top and bottom edge match whatever card slot design you chose. And then we're going to mark our center, if you haven't done that already, which stems up right from this V cut here out of the side edge. We're going to lay it on top of all of our card slots here, minding our spacing and watching our edges, and then we were just going to stitch across from this edge to this edge. Once you're all stitched up, we can now peel the paper off of our crutch. Now, if you already cut your card panel back, this is where you're going to lay it, wrong sides together. And since I waited to cut mine out until I had this final piece here, I'm just going to do that. Now I'm going to add glue around the entire perimeter and here down the center on top of this crutch. Now you can also add it here along the back of card panel A because the cards aren't going to go behind that piece of cork, but you do not want to put glue in this section here because that's where, when the cards are inserted, that's where they will sit on the inside of the card panel. So the back of card panel A and then around the entire perimeter and then over my crutch. And I'm just going to glue this whole thing down, wrong side together. And I'm just going to do a rough cut. And then now what I'm going to do is go and do my first stitches on my card panel to complete this. And this is a part of the pattern that if you're doing the right-handed or left-handed orientation that you need to pay attention to. If you are doing right-handed orientation, you're going to start down here at the bottom left and stitch up and across the top. If you're doing left-handed orientation, you're going to start down here, bottom right, up and across the top. Once I do that stitch, then I will come back and trim everything so that it's all nice and flush. Are my stitch lines. I know that this is correct because my V cutout is down here at the bottom. Now I'm just going to use my edges and trim up this entire piece so that everything is flush. If I have any weird overhanging areas, I can trim that in a scotch as well. Okay, let's move on to our exterior main panel. We are going to grab our zipper tape. If you haven't already, attach your pull. We have the panel. I have my pocket linings and my zipper gusset, as well as my tape and a lighter. We need to prep our zipper first. Now, if you are doing right-handed orientation, what you should see is your zipper box gusset cut line is here on the left. If you're doing left-handed orientation, your cut line will be here on the right. That changes the orientation of your zipper tape. Since I am doing right-handed orientation, I need to create my 90-degree fold here on the bottom left. If you're doing left-handed orientation, you need to create your fold on the bottom right. I'm going to come up about 3/4 of an inch, create my fold. So I'm going to pinch so that my tape goes wrong sides together, just like that. And then you lay that pinched piece of fabric just under your zipper teeth here, and you'll see it just naturally pulls the tape. If you have a different way that you like to do this, go for it. It's just the way that I do it. Now I'm going to trim off this excess and then burn my zipper tape and melt it all together. There we go. All right, next up we need to add some double stick tape to the wrong side of our exterior main panel. So I'm going to put tape under the zipper box, up the side, and then over top. And then we're going to peel the paper off of our tape. You can use glue for this as well. But what we need to do is lay our zipper tape in our zipper box. So zip it fully, lay your pull on top of the teeth, get it out of the way. And then this corner here from the zipper box, I'm going to lay just over this 90-degree fold. And I'm going to center my zipper teeth in the middle of my zipper box opening. Just like that. And so you'll notice that this tail hangs out. And depending on how wide you cut your zipper tape, you'll have some tails here, which is totally fine. We're going to trim those down once we're done stitching this into place. So once you get that taped, we need to lay our zipper pocket lining bottom piece. This is the smaller of the two. The first thing that I'm going to do is put some double stick tape here on the wrong side and just fold this shorter edge over, using my interfacing as my fold line, just like that. Get a nice crisp fold. And then I'm going to put more tape here along the bottom of my zipper tape. So just like this, peel. And then on the lining piece here that does not have the interfacing, so this raw edge here, we're going to lay it right side down. My nice folded edge is going to be in line with my zipper gusset opening here. And align that raw edge of the lining to the bottom edge of the tape. And so the zipper tape is now sandwiched in between the exterior main and this lining piece here. With this lining piece angled up toward the flap, just like how it's taped into place, we're going to flip and we're going to stitch from here, this top corner, all the way across, one stitch outside of the zipper box. We're going to pull our threads to the back and tie off. And what we're going to do is, through a series of starts and stops, we are going to create one continuous stitch line by pulling all of our threads to the back. But for now, we're stitching just underneath the bottom. All right, so this is what you should be looking like now. So that stitch line is just down here. And then working from the back side, what I'm going to do with my tails is just kind of pull them toward the center here. I'm not going to clip them too short. I like to just tape them right about here-ish. Just get the threads out of the way, and then I'll trim the tails off. Then you just simply fold this lining piece down, and then using that edge of the interfacing, you'll notice that it settles in exactly where it needs to be. And then we'll just leave that like that for now. Now the next thing we need to do is attach our zipper gusset. So I'm going to start by putting some double stick tape on the wrong side short edge. Like this. Peel this tape. And then this is going to sit right on top of the lining. And I'm lining it up thereabouts with the bottom opening right down here of my zipper cut line. I'm not concerned with catching this lining piece in my stitch line. I just want to ensure that I'm at least catching this raw edge of my zipper gusset when I'm stitching my 1/8 inch seam allowance. So from the front, we're going to go back to the machine. I'm going to sink my needle into this hole where I started my last stitch line, and I'm going to stitch down one stitch line past the bottom of this opening, this gusset line down here. If you find it easier, I sometimes do, you can flip and start your stitch line down here from the bottom. Just make sure that you're ensuring that you sync up to this hole right here. All right, there we are. There's that stitch line there. I was able to sync it in that same hole down there. So we're looking good from the front. Now you have a couple of options here with your threads. You can tuck these threads into this little hole that's down in here. Might take some finagling, but can be done. So, or you can just snip them and burn them to singe the little threads off. But these guys, I just like to pull under and tuck them under this lining pouch area. Once you get your threads pushed through the hole, if that's what you decide to do, I would just go ahead and tape those down just like we did the last guys. Just like that, and then trim off that crazy excess there. All right, next thing we need to do is we're going to fold just the zipper gusset over to encase this cut line here. So we're going to overlap it about 1/4 inch, just like that. And I'm going to start by putting some tape here on this opposite edge of my cut, up and over onto my zipper teeth. And then I can just go ahead and wrap it on around, because the next thing we're going to do is add this topper. So peel your paper and then fold your zipper gusset in half. So you're keeping the bottom edge aligned and you're overlapping that open cut line. So this open cut line here, about 1/4 inch. You don't want to get super close to the edge because then that makes sewing down here bulky, but you want to ensure that you have more than enough breathing room here that you can stitch it and catch it without having any issue. Once you get this in place here, what we're going to do is take our remaining zipper lining panel, and then lay it right side down. And I'm lining up my bottom edges, and my top edge goes along the top edge of the zipper, just like so. What you should see is everything meets up nicely around all 4 edges. So before we stitch from the front and finish off our zipper box, it's a little easier if we close up our zipper lining now. So we're going to go to the machine. I'm going to peel up just the exterior main panel, and I'm going to stitch down and then pivot and stitch across just my lining panels, just like that. And you're going to get really close down in here. And when you're making this will make more sense, but you're going to get close enough here to where you know that anything that you put in your zipper pouch is not going to go through that little tiny hole. After we close up our zipper pouch, with the exterior panel right side up, what I'm going to do is sink my needle in the same hole down here at the bottom of the cut line. I'm going to stitch across the opening, up the side, across the top, and then back down the short edge here, sinking my needle into this hole over here from the very first stitch line that we made. And that will make one continuous look, even though we did it in 3 segments. All right, this is what we're looking like. I'm just going to trim, not with my good scissors, but I'm going to trim away this overhanging zipper tape. And then any excess that I might have anywhere. Okay, now we need to grab our Craftex stabilizer. I have these labeled inside, back. Now the back measurements are very similar, but you need to make sure that you have the correct measurement for the width and then the flap. And so they're going to go right on top of what we just made here in this layout. So I went ahead and added some double stick tape to the wrong side. There's no real wrong side. I just labeled this side to show you. So you want 1/4 inch from the sides and the bottom, and then 5/8 ish, thereabouts, between the other pieces. It should be 5/8. If it's a little less, that's fine. Don't fret. So obviously I didn't take the time to go back and measure it. You can see it's not that big of a deal. You just want to make sure that you have the back piece is covering your entire zipper area. The inside is down here on the bottom, and then your flap is here at the top. So it looks just like this. All right, go ahead and grab all of your prepped pieces. We have our main panel exterior, main panel interior, or the lining, and then our completed card panel. If you're using regular magnetic snaps, you need to go ahead and install the male portion here on the flap of the interior. Otherwise, we are going to just take the interior and exterior, we're going to lay them wrong sides together and glue everything in place. Now, I like to use glue for this section rather than tape because it gives me time to shift my two pieces around in case I need to make any adjustments. Whereas if you're using tape for this section, it's more of a pain in the butt to peel the entire sections apart and try to, you know, maneuver and lay them where they need to be. But when it comes to using glue, you can just lay them wrong sides together and then take your time and push the two panels around until all of your edges meet up. Now, because I'm doing right-handed orientation, I'm going to lay my completed card panel on the bottom right corner. My flap is on my left side. My zipper panel is here along the back. Now, if you're doing left-handed orientation, your card slot panel will go down to the bottom left corner. Your flap will be over here. So to adhere these together correctly. Now, on the main panel piece, you have a placement for your edge of your card panel. I'm just going to do a tiny little line right there so that I have that placement. Grab some clips. And starting on the right short hand side, I'm going to stand my pieces up so that I know that everything is even here along the bottom. And I'm going to clip my card panel to my main panels. Now, something that I like to do, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can work in a little bit of a trimming edge from the main panel. So I have it over just about a 1/16 of an inch. And I'm leaving myself just the slightest gap that I'll trim off afterward to ensure that my edges are flush. I'm just going to work across this bottom area here. And I'm going to stop whenever I get to this little triangle cutout. And then what I'm going to do is start to close the wallet, sliding my card panel to meet up with this line. Once it's in line, I'm going to clip this into place, ensuring that my bottom edges are nice and flush. Now what this does is it creates this bubble here along the bottom edge, and we need that for when the wallet is closed and being used. It eases everything into place nicely down here. So you want that little bubble. That's why we slide the card panel over. So once you get everything clipped, we're going to go stitch. Now you need to be aware of your snap that's installed on the exterior. You can start here, work your way around. You could start here, work your way down and across all the way around. If you need to pull this out of the way when you're stitching here, you can. Any way that you see fit, you just need to attach your card panel to your main panel exterior. Some might find it easier to stitch from the exterior main panel right side up. And then when you get to this bubble, you can just stitch that area with the main panel down. Totally up to you. However you get there, you just want to ensure that you stitch around the entire perimeter of the wallet. And I do suggest adding some back stitches here, right here where the triangle cutout meets up with the bubble, and then right in here as well, because those are what I call stress points. Those are the areas of the wallet that will be getting the most action when you're going in and out of it. So I always like to add some extra stitches along those edges. all stitched up and ready for the final trim. So I'm just going to trim my edges. If there's any weird overhanging, there's slight overlap right there. I'm just going to trim all of that down, and then we'll install our snap. All right, so using whatever installation tools you have, I personally am using my Gold Star press. I'm going to install my spring snap, so the cap and, whoops, the cap and the actual snap itself. The cap will go here on the outside, but if you also have, you can use the rivet, double cap rivet magnet snaps for that, or really any other type of closure. Could get super funky. You could probably do this with the twist locks, totally up to you. So if you want to, you can fold it. What we're looking for here is this little V cut is the center bottom of the wallet. And so I like to just fold it and finger press it, crease it, and then I will lay my flap down. And I want to make sure that my flap meets up with my edges. I don't want it totally crooked and off center here. So I want to make sure that everything is nice and flush. And then I can kind of double check my placement as well, just by applying pressure here. So I can make sure that where my placement is that I marked previously is actually in line with where I want it. But there is a little bit of give here. There's that 5/8 gap. So if you find that for whatever reason, it's laying a little funky or you want a tighter fit, you can, you know, put this remaining snap wherever you'd like. I find that I like to have a little bit more of a gap here. So that way when the wallet is full, if somebody overstuffs it, or, you know, if you win $1 billion and it's nice and full of cash, it has a little bit of extra breathing room up through here to expand. There we go. Freshly completed Ceres Slim Wallet with the gusseted zipper pouch. If you want to, you can add the optional wristlet strap. The main panel pattern piece has the placement, but essentially it's just right here in this open area above the card slot panel and below the flap. You can do two. You can do one on either side if you want it to have like a crossbody strap situation. I tend to just do the one up here where the top of my card slot opening is, so that if I am carrying it by the wristlet strap, then my cash opening is to the top when I'm holding it by the strap. All right, friends, we have completed yet another project. I hope that you enjoyed this little video and that you love my new pattern as much as I do. I did do that time lapse of the edge coating here. If you're interested in a more in-depth view into how I edge coat and what I use to seal my edges, I do have an older video. I'll link that down below, but it is on my to-do list to do an updates and talk about new paints and, you know, techniques and all the things that I've learned over the years. So, any hoozle, I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week.